Here we go. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Real Estate Roundtable presented by Angie Boulay & Associates. We're a real estate team located in the Windsor-Essex County area with RE/MAX Preferred Realty. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing waterfront properties and cottage properties. My name is Steve Blaze, Team General Manager, and I'd like to welcome Angie Goulet and Trista Anderson.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey,
ladies.
everybody.
Yeah. So I wanted to share something with you guys really quick. Today, I won the lottery.
No.
It's not an April Fool's joke. I feel like I won the lottery. So I got up.
You're not quitting.
I'm sorry?
You're not quitting on live.
Yeah, right? It's an online breakup. No. So I logged in at 7 a.m. because, as you know, with provincial parks, you have to book 5 months, or the limit is booking 5 months in advance. So I managed to book at 7 o'clock my backcountry interior Algonquin site for September.
Oh, wow.
But what's happening now with the provincial parks is they've got online bots that are going in and reserving stuff, and then they're reselling this stuff online and transferring the permits. So it's kind of, remember, like scalping at sports events, and it's kind of like that, but for provincial parks or other parks. But so I was really happy to be able to get a site, even though one of the lakes was booked instantly, like it sold out instantly. So it still works for us. We just have to do a longer day to get to another lake, but I'm just happy to have got one because I've been reading about so many people that are having a hard time, getting, especially, I mean, this is backcountry, but RVs, right?
What's the resale value on this?
What's that?
What's the resale value on this?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Steve, your idea of winning the lottery and my idea of winning the lottery are two very different.
Are they? Yeah. My point is that, I mean, it's hard enough today to get a site. If you've got an RV or something, and RVing is really popular, and, it's just hard to get those sites to go enjoy that. So when we're talking about waterfront and cottage properties, kind of eliminates that problem. It's yours, right?
I do like that.
Yeah. So
and I admire you greatly for what you do out in the wilderness, because I just don't think I'm set up for it.
Yeah, I'm fighting like crazy to get a site so I can go sleep on the ground.
Yes.
It's a lot of people, that seems odd, but
no, I went there portaging in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I have not been back. No.
I have been with my husband for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I would say for the first 20, I begged him every year, take me camping. I've never been camping. I want to camp. And he has somehow got it in my brain that I'm not cut out for camping. So I've never slept in a tent. And I always have this romantic idea of what it would be like. But I hear stories and I get over it quickly and I book a hotel. Yeah.
Avoid black fly season. It's all the only tip I'm going to give you.
That's right. And that's certainly something you want to avoid on the lake too, if you're looking at buying property, because
yeah, for sure. So, I mean, well, let's jump right into it with waterfront and cottage property. I mean, there's that benefit of it being yours, right? I mean, you don't have to book it ever. You're there. What are the kinds of lifestyle benefits that we have from waterfront? There's so many.
Well, I'll tell you, I moved on the lake 5 years ago, and I kind of assumed that I would see a little bit of paddle boards, like near canals. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of paddle boarding, a little bit of boating, maybe jet skiing. What I've seen out there has been all kinds of craziness. And this winter, to my shock and awe, I've never actually walked the ice, but of course we're bored out of our minds and decided to go for a walk on the ice. And I got about 40 meters from my house and turned around, and it's like a village out there. There's like people with fires on the water. There's all the people that are in their little tents fishing, and then you've got skating rinks. You've got people cross country skiing. You've got people on snowmobiles and four-wheelers. Like, it's like a little village there in the winter. It was very, very cool and nice to see. But year-round, there's constant activity. There is, like we spoke about, paddle boarders, jet skiers. There's Wednesday night from, I think, mid-May until September. The yacht club has their sailboat races. So the sailboats kind of come out in front. They come from Lake St. Clair all the way down to the Detroit River, where the yacht club is. And it's beautiful to see. On top of the fact that there is just the absolute sereneness of looking at the water, which I understand. Actually, I believe Trista, there are some health benefits to just living on the water.
Yeah, there are. So there's actually a biologist, Dr. Wallace Nichols, that wrote a book called Blue Mind.
Mhm.
So they kind of they wanted to know about the phenomenon. People are always attracted to going to the water, right? Like whether you're doing a beach vacation, you're like, it kind of draws people in. So what they found is living on the water increases overall mental health. So it decreases blood pressure, relieves stress, um, helps with anxiety. And then they're starting doing more aquatic therapies now, especially with people with autism and PTSD.
Nice.
So helping addictions. So there's definite health benefits to just. Sorry.
The dog's getting excited about it even.
Something happened. I don't know what happened. Anyway, but hey, but they're yeah, I lost my train of thought completely.
That's probably why I love spending so much time there for all those reasons, right? You just feel relaxed and calm. And Angie, you and I were talking about storm watching. It's one of my favorite things to do on the water is watching those thunderstorms roll in, right?
Mm-hmm.
We literally have friends text us or call us and say, "Hey, there's a storm rolling in tonight. What are you guys doing?" And yeah, it's the place to be when you can watch the light shows, and it feels different coming off the water too, because you actually feel the winds kind of rustle up from nowhere, and it's quite a phenomenon.
Well, I know on Lake Erie, when you see the storm starting over in Ohio and you can watch it like roll in, it's super cool. Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
But thinking about waterfront cottage properties in Windsor, Essex, I think there's some questions we need to ask ourselves as a buyer, like what do we want out of this, so we can kind of determine where the best place to buy is.
Yeah, because there's different areas with different lifestyle options. Everything from like a tiny little cottage out by Colchester to like a massive property on Riverside Drive. So
I was kind of shocked to hear, and actually I think it was Trista who brought this to my attention too, the average price point for waterfront sale right now. That was running us in the, was it 5, 6s?
Current to date, right now, for 2020, the average price sold was $644. There were 246 properties sold on the water in 2020, and the average days on market was 57. So if we go back to 2017, that's when we had some of like the great storm came in, right?
Right.
Right. So the average sales price back then was still 514. So we haven't
seen the increase
that we've seen in new construction and residential resale in the waterfront. Their days on market only slightly longer at 65, and their property sold was 192. So pretty comparable, even though we're all like, everyone was panicking, really.
And I think a lot of people, when they hear waterfront, they think they need $1 million to buy it. So hearing 644 is the average when our sale price is hovering. Where's our we're 5
around the 5 range, depending on the month we're comparing it. So yeah.
So averaging, you're not looking at a whole lot more to be on the water right now. But I think that maybe the stop of the waterfront growth has been all the flooding concerns in the last few years, right?
Yeah, you're on the water now, Angie. How have you noticed that? Where are we at right now, in your opinion, for height of the water level?
It is lower than it's been. Where I'm at, I have about 5 feet off my dock to the bottom, so we haven't had any real concerns here for flooding or anything like that. But if you go down into the canals by my house, some backyards, if you paddleboard or I kayak through, some of the backyards were underwater last year, which is a precursor to not good things.
But I understand that a lot of that has to do with wind direction and things. If you get a really strong wind in a certain direction, forces the water into those canals, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think that this year, especially with the amount of interest that we're seeing in it's not just concentrated in Windsor right now. We're seeing interest in Kingsville, Wheatley, Tilbury, even, like all throughout. So I think we're going to see a change in that, where it starts coming back up to where the marketplace has been for the rest of the resale homes.
Yeah, it should.
It should. Yeah.
Eventually. But so a good time to buy. If you're into waterfront, it's definitely a good time to take
I would
advantage,
agree.
right?
Well, what do they say? What's that cliche? They're never building more waterfront.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when you say average time on the market, 57 days when last year, right?
Yeah.
When the average time on the market for the average home was 11.
It was 11, 12, 13. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Very
it was very significantly lower. That speaks to me. Why would we have especially when waterfront does increase at a good pace, why are we having a challenge selling it? And I think people just got spooked by hearing the flooding. I haven't seen a lot of homes that have really struggled with flooding. I've seen water in yards and stuff like that, but I have yet to see anything significant. Has anyone else?
Well, last year I was sent notices in the mail. I live 4 blocks off the water in Riverside. And it was like, my son was still here. It was before he left, like COVID shut down, right? So he was stuck here from the army. And he wanted to go get sandbags and everything. And I was like, buddy, like, I think we're fine. And nothing, like nothing. So I understand that they're overly cautious. I did read up a little bit on the budget and how they're trying to work in more prevention,
Right.
money. So they're on it. But it is, there's some, if you're really afraid, you want the benefits of living on the water, but you don't want any chance of flooding. There's bluff properties. There's lots of things you can do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don Merrifield is asking, I'm nervous about asking this, but he's saying, ask Trista about the raccoon incident of 2012.
No. Yeah. No, it was a camping and they all left me at the campsite and all the flashlights, and I was surrounded by raccoons, and I cried. And,
that's not nice.
Yeah. So.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so if we're thinking about a waterfront property, we need to think about what are we going to be doing there? Do we want to swim off of, outside of our backyard? If that's the case, maybe a rocky bluff kind of property might not be for you. You need a sandy beach. Otherwise, if you want to be able to dock your motorboat, like maybe on a dock, then we need to make sure there's enough water for you to float the boat.
Right.
So there's lots of considerations there for sure. And also, will this be a full-time residence? Is this a cottage, or are you planning on living here year-round? Right?
Yeah. And what kind of lifestyle do you want? Like, we have everything from Lighthouse Cove to Cedar Island. You can be out by the wineries. There's so many. Boblo Island.
My favorite.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I guess are you still working? And are you planning on commuting back and forth to work from there? So I guess how far is that away from where you work? Are you going to have to factor in a 1-hour commute or that kind of thing? And if it's your permanent residence, then, considering road conditions and things like that, perhaps out that way in the wintertime. So really planning on what your whole life looks like around that location. And also distance to amenities. So, is the Costco probably won't be close.
I'm finding with people that are looking at waterfront right now, they really, COVID has kind of changed things around a bit. We're not traveling, to get the enjoyment out of the land that you own. You don't necessarily want to be, stuck somewhere. So people are much more open to going into Costco or not at all.
Right. Instacart.
Right. Instacart, have things delivered. You can still shop locally on Amazon. There's a button for that if nobody knows that.
So if you have to quarantine, I'd like to do so on the water.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with the pools, right? Everybody's going crazy for pools right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same sort of situation, I think, with the waterfront, is that you get to enjoy that. And if you can't go into work, well, I'll stay home, right?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations I've had with people that are interested in waterfront and stuff, or, dream of waterfront and are hoping to make the move eventually is, if I'm going to be in a subdivision, yes, I need to be convenient to everything because that's kind of the lifestyle you live. But if I'm moving on the water, I'm not going to be going out, 3 nights a week for dinner. That's just
right.
I want to be home. I want to be in front of the water. So people are a little bit more open to expanding their search most of the times. And I'm sure you found that too. The waterfront buyers are interested in looking Colchester or Wheatley or some other area that if you were putting them in a subdivision, they wouldn't ever consider.
Right. Well, and when you're living on the water, you tend to have more people over.
Yes.
Like people want to come to your house.
Yes.
You know?
That's true. Yeah, you get a lot of friends when you live on the water, don't you?
I'm in Angie's backyard right now.
She just doesn't know it. Yeah.
I just brought my painting with me.
Yeah.
Enjoy. It's there for you.
For sure. So, I mean, we talked about the areas and what our favorites are, and we mentioned Pablo Island, right? It's got the ferry. It's probably, as far as Essex County goes, that's one of our premier locations for island waterfront living. It's kind of nostalgic, right? With the amusement park.
I have to be honest. The first time I went to Pablo Island, I went there to list a property, and I didn't want to like it. Now, we're all in the same age group. Pablo Island means something very specific to us, and it was ripped away in the prime of my youth. They closed it when I turned 13. It was the year I was supposed to go alone.
Right.
But I was kind of mourning Pablo closing. And when I got on that island, there's something magical about it that I just wanted to stay. And you feel like you're,
Yeah.
on vacation the moment you drive up. I personally am a big fan.
Yeah, my favorite, and I've lived on Georgian Bay because I'm not originally from here. Living on the river in Windsor, but my favorite was Lake Erie, like for sure. Watching storms come in from Ohio, like I loved it, just loved it. And like Sandy Beach, you could not have a dock. I was on Erie Avenue, but going further into the Gold Coast, right? Then you're docks. I loved it. Amherst Point is my favorite.
It is nice. I feel like, in fact, I just went for a ride out there the other day, that Colchester community is kind of that sleeper community that doesn't get enough publicity. It's got such a beautiful waterfront. The marina's great. The park is great for the kids, and the beach is nice. Just overall, it's such a nice spot to. It's often a destination for motorcyclists and stuff too, right? To head out there and take a break. Oh, absolutely. So things to consider. So if we're thinking about waterfront property, what are other things to consider for us? I think one of the ones would be internet. If you're planning on working from there, it may not, that particular location may not have that fiber optic internet that you're used to. So if you're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and that sort of thing, just make sure that what's available to you is enough.
Right. Also, really, there are some communities out there that have like a community fee. They have a lot more interaction with their neighbors. Like if you're looking for that kind of lifestyle, we only really have that one RV park on the water, right?
Well, there's the Ravine Cottages out in Oxley, right, out that way.
Yeah.
Isn't there one in Leamington?
On the water.
Oh, it's right off. Sorry, It's not quite on the water. It's right near the Sandpoint.
Oh, you mean Sturgeon Creek?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there's an RV park out there. Not so much mobile homes, though.
If you're moving down here and you want to, you don't know a lot of people in the area, moving to something that is more community-based, kind of get you out there. But I tend to find people that live on the water, like, we're all chatting all the time anyway. Everyone's so relaxed from living on the water. Yeah.
And some of those neighborhoods are little communities with amenities too, right? Like a clubhouse and a pool and those sorts of things. So you get to benefit from that. What else do we have to consider out there? Of course, utilities, right? More often than not, you're dealing with septic systems in some of these communities that are, cottagey, right?
Right.
We'll have septic systems, just making sure those are up to snuff, and then making sure if you have plans for docks and that sorts of thing, you're going to need permits for that, right? FERCA and so on. And you've got docks, don't you, Angie? Where you're at right now?
I do. I haven't changed the dock though. I've looked at changing the dock, which is a big piece of work. The one thing I did want to mention is if you're looking at waterfront and you want a structure in your backyard, you want sheds or something like that, Not impossible, but sometimes very difficult to get up because you have to keep the line of sight for your neighbors, which means anything you put up on your backyard can't come in their way of the waterfront, which really limits what you can do. I've seen people like attach a shed right to the side of their house. That way, I think that's non-conforming, but at least you're not going to get neighbors complaining that you're blocking their site.
Right.
Because you would be close to the property line. As we know, there's not a whole lot of width on most waterfront properties, but so you want to be aware of your neighbor's line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, to buy into waterfront knowing that nobody's going to put a giant 2-story home up in front of me and kill the view, right? So I think it's a good thing.
Or 4 stories on Riverside.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
What else are concerns for us cottages? So if they're seasonal, are there things to just double check on, like mortgage financing and insurance?
And insurance would be a big one.
Do you find, Angie, your insurance is maybe more expensive on the water than it was outside of being on the water?
I find everything more expensive on the water.
Yeah.
But yes, considerably so. So my basement is fully finished, and it is, I want to say, about $5,000 a year just to insure my basement, which is expensive. But if my basement floods, it's going to be very expensive too, right?
Yeah.
So that is one that was hard here, but that was right at 2017 that they increased that. So I can understand there was a ton of flooding throughout Essex County on the waterfront. I wonder if that'll come back down. But I find a lot of things to be just a little bit more pricey, not ridiculous, but you need a little bit extra liability for waterfront because you have the docks, because people are around water on your property.
Mm-hmm.
So certain things like that is just going to increase your premiums. And you always have both sides of the coin, right? I've had people say, what are you worried about? People aren't, no one's going to die on your property. And that's not what you're worried about. But, someone slips and falls or anything happens, you want to make sure you have the proper liability and coverages here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's like having a swimming pool.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the houses, though, especially the older properties, they don't have basements.
Right.
Right. So a lot of that is negated.
The majority of them. And a lot of people don't want to insure their basement. Right. Because my house is newer and it was built by my husband and he insures me that my basement will never flood. I finished it, but the majority of people living on the water just never do finish their basement.
Yeah.
So there's no real reason to insure that. And I understand that too.
Totally makes sense. Another thing that people often want to do with waterfront properties is turn them into Airbnbs. Now that has gotten very popular and it's kind of taken off anywhere around the beach areas. What are your thoughts on that for things to maybe consider if you're planning on that, if you've never done it before?
Trista, you want to touch on that?
You know about running Airbnbs more than...
Well, I will touch on it then. Airbnbs, I've seen quite a few. I know actually a few friends that have them on the water. When you're looking at running something like that, you want to look at all the logistics. So if you're 10 minutes away, maybe you indeed want to do the cleaning for the property. If you're 40 minutes away, you definitely want to have somebody that can go in there and clean up and sanitize between clients, right? So those, I'm going to say Airbnbs, I'm hearing are very busy again, but if we're going back into gray, that'll probably slow down again.
I hope not.
But if you have to travel or need to travel during this pandemic, I think the majority of us feel safer going into a place where only our family is going to be instead of going into a hotel or an apartment. So they are popular, they're being used, but if you're looking at doing that for an income, I would certainly look at, the logistics of getting things done for your property. And if you can manage that, or if you need help, because in the rural areas, it's a lot harder to get a cleaner or, somebody out there to help you out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I feel like we're not touching on yet is the like we have so much waterfront here. Like we're known as the
Yeah.
right? So super lucky in this area.
Absolutely. And really, no matter what you want, if you want the sandy beach, or you just want seclusion, or you want the good view from a bluff, or you want somewhere to keep your motorboat, or paddle in calm water, right? You've got River Canard for that. Area Cedar, Cedar Creek. There's just, depending on what you're looking to get out of it. And I think it's the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want, to make sure that you find the right property?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then choosing the right realtor to make sure that all of your interests are protected. I mean, there's so much to look out for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's just a lot more unknowns when you're going onto the waterfront, especially usually people buy and stay. They don't buy and flip and move around the water, right?
It's terrible off the water. Like it's awful. It takes you a full year. You need to go through 4 seasons and then you're still mad at yourself for leaving. I'm
Yeah.
still mad.
Are you still mad?
Still mad. Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe
One
that.
day I'll get back on the water. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's worth it. Like I know sometimes, especially with the beach, if you don't have a break wall, if you have a break wall, it's fine. If you have a beach, like your Saturday mornings are, you're picking up some stuff that you didn't necessarily want to see.
It's true.
Yeah, stuff floated up on our beach that I didn't want to explain to my my then 14-year-old daughter. So yeah, it's fun, but it's the lifestyle's so nice. Like getting the kids out, having a fire, sitting around, like it's just so wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Any last topics we want to touch on before we wrap it up today?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I did look up, we had discussed previously, like when would be the best time to sell if you're selling your waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this is necessarily advocating that after my rant, but April and May, and surprisingly, December and January seem to get the most amount of money.
Wow.
So historic sales from 2015 to present. This January, we saw the most amount for average sales than we have ever seen. Okay. So that did jump up a little bit. It was in hundreds in the average sale price for this January for waterfront. So it is, it's definitely a good market. And if you're looking to sell, springtime is never a bad time for waterfront. People are always looking to get on the water and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Especially this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you want to try and pick it up so you can still get a closing date and enjoy the property. There's nothing like getting that fantastic waterfront property in November and not getting to get out and sit there on the beach and that sort of thing before.
Yeah, the December, January sales prices kind of surprised me, but then I thought, they're probably shopping then because they're thinking that they're getting a deal.
Yeah.
You're not.
I like that.
Yeah, for sure. So right now really is your time. If you've got a waterfront property you want to sell traditionally.
Yeah, now's the time to put it up. And then if you're looking to buy, it's never a bad time. But they seem to be getting the most deals in like September-ish.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. All right. Angie, anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Not really. I'm the biggest advocate for waterfront properties. I think in Essex County, you can still buy one in an affordability bracket. I've seen very nice homes in the 400,000 price point. And I would give up a lot just to be able to sit in my backyard and enjoy the sound of waves, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking about waterfront, take a peek around, see what you can get. Find a trusted realtor. I know our team would love to help you, but make sure you trust the person who's working for you, because waterfront has a lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks, but give it a whirl. I like Trista said, I think I would beat myself up for probably more than a year.
Yeah.
In there. Well, thanks very much, ladies. I appreciate you joining in today, and thank you all for watching. Join us next Thursday when we're going to be going over March 2021 real estate board stats. So it'll be interesting to see what's been going on, because I know it's been hectic and busy, and interesting to see where the numbers sit. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Thanks again, everyone, and have a great long weekend.
You too. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Yeah. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.